Welcome back to the Tatev Talks podcast, where brains meets banter. Today we're joined by Dr. Debra Garcia. See you in a bit. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Garcia. Welcome on the podcast.
How are you? Dr. Sarkissyan yourself.
Almost. I'm good. I'm just going to introduce you really quickly, and then we can go into the depth of our conversation. Dr. Garcia, you are a dual doctorate in psych and education from UCLA and Cal State LA. You've been teaching at Cal State LA in the psych department for over 20 years now, so lots of teaching experience. You have your own research lab, which is a teen and adolescent stress lab, and you just, probably 2 years now maybe, that you published your book with Wilson Ho, which is a dialectical behavioral therapy skills workbook for teens and adolescents. You are my role model.
Oh, truly. Thank you so much.
Truly, you are my role model.
Oh, I really appreciate you saying that.
I'm so happy you're the first person back on this podcast.
Cool.
I can't even, I'm like gleaming. But I want to start by talking about your workbook, which is DBT Skills Workbook.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the coolest projects that I've also been a part of. So tell us a little bit about DBT. What are the skills, I think the main pillars or important things that people should know about dialectical behavioral therapy?
Sure. Dialectical behavioral therapy was designed by Marsha Linehan, and it was specifically created as a therapeutic approach for very difficult to treat patients. So people with borderline personality disorder as well as substance abuse disorder, that was the original sort of intentional population. And then over time, we just started to see through the research that it was a very effective modality of treatment for many, many populations with lots of different disorders. And so more recently, people are starting to explore it for adolescent wellness. And that's where I came in on that. I thought, you know what, dialectical behavioral therapy, it's absolutely crucial. All of the tenets or the 4 pillars and the concepts of dialectical behavioral therapy, I'll run them down for you, is mindfulness. Who doesn't need a good mindfulness moment, right? To just pause and reset themselves, right? I mean, teenagers need to do this all the time. They're revved up all the time. They're constantly thinking, whether it's with their friends and what they're going to do and what they're going to wear and what's going to happen in school and my assignments and my phone and my social media. It's just like revved up all the time. So mindfulness is one pillar. The other one is emotion regulation. Another excellent key sort of component to support adolescents with, with that kind of regulating their emotions and figuring out how to not get so overwhelmed that they either shut down or they maybe escalate behaviorally. And then distress tolerance, knowing how to manage crisis situations, how to really cope with situations that are very, very difficult, either heightened crisis situations that a lot of teenagers are exposed to, especially with our global system that they're kind of engaging with, but also a little bit of their own personal chronic stressors. So distress tolerance is great for adolescents who are experiencing chronic stressors or heightened stressors. Now we know a lot of adolescents, they have more chronic stressors than ever before. In fact, there's a lot of research that's going out right now. I mean, I think every generation kind of says when we were kids or when I was at, but in the reality is right now, there's a lot more things going on, from political upheaval to global crises to economic disenfranchisement, increases of prejudice, discrimination, and racism, which teens are telling us is a real thing that they are experiencing. So these are these chronic things. And then the 4th pillar of DBT is interpersonal effectiveness or social health, right? So how could this not be one of the best treatment modalities for teenagers and adolescents? And so before I even wrote the DBT workbook, we were doing a lot of research for about 4 to 5 years in our adolescent stress and wellness research lab. And then the book was developed based on all of the research that we had conducted, trying to understand what are teens stressed about? What do they say they're stressed about? We would go out and ask them. We'd do focus groups. We'd have them write us narratives. So we really learned a lot from teenagers about their experiences and realized that all of the things that they're experiencing in their everyday lives, even just everyday hassles, could really fit really well with dialectical behavioral therapy and skill development within that.
I think one of the coolest things about the DBT workbook is the fact that it really closes that research to practice gap, which is exactly what you did and what we talk about a lot in our classes, it being in the psych field, but also in general. Like, people do a lot of research, and then taking that research and applying it to populations becomes very difficult. So we have a lot of research and conference posters and conferences that we go to, and everything's all great, but then it's not actionable. And the DBT workbook really makes it actionable, and it's all research done from your lab. So actual teens telling you about their stressors, you putting it into action, and us putting it into practice, which has been really cool. So I love that you broke that down for us. Thank you so much. I think it's one of the better modalities for treatment, especially in therapy settings, especially for people that are coming from ethnic backgrounds.
And I think that's why I wanted to be able to transition this back, because community mental health is really important to me, especially working with those teens who are less likely to access resources. I mean, we know there's, health inequity is real, psychological stigma is real. And so we wanted to make sure that we were connecting with adolescents and teens from communities that, are more marginalized or disenfranchised. And so they had access to some types of skills to support their own mental health and feel empowered through that.
Yeah.
And so that's why community mental health and giving service and delivering service in that way was more important to me. Yeah.
I think you really do that. I mean, being a person, a part of the DBT team, and I've seen the impact it has on teens when we go out into the community and we work with them directly and we teach them these skills, and and I see the way our coaches connect with youth, and I think it very much does that. And I really appreciate the fact that you have this resource available to teens and to communities. So I wanted to bring that up and easily segue into our main topic for today, which I think has also a lot to do with community health, in that talking about the balance between spirituality and research, being a scientist, being a psychologist. One of the things that happened to me that brought this kind of conversation up, and you and I talk about this all the time, was that I actually had someone tell me, like, I'm going to use the term religion and spirituality interchangeably in this conversation, in terms of believing in something higher than what is seeable, I guess. But I had someone tell me, you can't be religious and be a psychologist. And I had a very long conversation with said person to be like, that's not true. You can absolutely have religious beliefs, you can be spiritual, you can have all of that, and also be a researcher and also be a psychologist. We kept going back and forth. The whole idea behind being a researcher and being a scientist, quote unquote, is to essentially say, like, you believe what you can see and what you can prove, and everything is done by theory, et cetera, which completely goes against what spirituality and religion is. So I guess my first question to you, because I know we've talked about this a lot, is how do you balance those two worlds? Like, you've been a researcher and a psychologist for so long, but I know that you are also spiritual in some way.
Well, I will tell you this, it was a challenge, right? So my journey towards being open with my own spirituality and understanding what that connection meant for me, and these bigger sort of cosmic experiences that are outside of, right, the research lab and the science and the math and the data. I had a hard time. It took me a good 15 to 20 years.
Wow.
It took me a long time to actually really connect with understanding that these are multiple truths. They can coexist, and you don't have to be afraid of it.
Oh, wow.
So I had a lot of fear within my own spiritual journey. The exposure of the things that I was seeing or being a part of was really challenging for me, because I kept saying, how could that be? I'm a researcher. I'm a scientist. Like, I look at data. I look at the facts. But the one thing is true, we cannot prove anything.
Right.
We still have limitations in research too. We can't prove anything. We can get close to the truth.
Associations.
Right, but in the end, we're dealing with humans, and human behavior is so dynamic, and it's effervescent, and it's always changing, and it's changing from groups to cultures to regions to individuals to family systems to identities. I mean, all this stuff is fleeting, and how are we really going to capture that?
Yeah.
So, in reality is, though, I have come to learn that, like, multiple truths can coexist at once, and I did have a very challenging journey towards that. But now I'm completely on the other end, and which is really accepting, embracing, and incorporating it into my everyday life.
Okay.
Where before I pushed it away.
Pushed it away.
I pushed it away
Okay.
for a long time.
think
I don't
we're
want to see
trained
that.
to
I don't
do
want to
that.
hear that. I don't want to la 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 la, that kind of a thing. And
I mean,
so,
I definitely think we're trained to do that. Like we are
True.
trained to be like, no, logic. What's the problem? What's the problem statement and how can I solve it? And I think that goes against what spirituality is. I think spirituality is being like having faith that, you know, things are working out for you. And like, there's this higher thing that's above us, I guess. And, you know, having faith is what I'm trying to say, you know, and psychology is not having faith. Psychology is having data. It's so the opposite of each other. I struggle with being able to be like, how can I believe this thing when there is literally no data to back it up? Mm-hmm. I don't know how to balance the two, and I think a lot
your
of
own
people
personal data.
that.
You have your own personal data,
Data,
right?
Yeah.
You have your own personal experiences that resonates with you,
yeah.
And that is what's meaningful, right? And that's like your own personal purpose, and where you've been guided on that journey from beyond your own maybe experiences or intellect or self, right? There's been other things that have moved around you that have guided you in that direction. And so our own personal journeys, they are data.
They are data.
They are data. I will also say though, even though I was conflicted by it, I never said that it didn't exist. I never said like, you can't be a psychologist, so therefore, I mean, you know what I mean? If you're a psychologist and therefore you can't believe in religiosity or spirituality. I never believed that. I believed that they both coexisted, but it kind of was a little
one more than the other.
I was afraid of the other one.
Got it.
I was afraid of that path of what that spiritual experience would look like for me.
Interesting.
Because it can be very intense for me.
Yes.
So I pushed back on it, knowing that it existed, but didn't really want to relish in it or embrace it in the way that I have now.
Yeah. I definitely think it's cool to see though, because I definitely was one of those people who were like, well, at a certain point, I was like, that can't be true. There's no data to back it up. Like, da 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 da. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it has to do with my background in training and like the things that were taught to me by the people around me and in the field, right? Like a lot of people push the narrative that A, religion is bad, or B, that you cannot be religious and a scientist at the same time because religion goes against science. So a lot of that narrative is being pushed, I think. And I see it a lot in my students now where they kind of are navigating the idea of being a researcher and like collecting data. And we tell them that data is so important that they can't seem to put those two ideologies together.
Yeah.
However, I think in our ethnic communities, it's so important to not push that away, especially for people who are going into the clinical field, to be able to have their clients embrace religion because it can be very powerful and healing for people, right? In a way that research, I think, cannot.
It cannot. It cannot do the same thing towards your journey of healing as spirituality and religion can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I do see spirituality and religiosity as a little bit two different things.
Okay.
And so for me, I think I lean in more towards spirituality and your spiritual experiences, which is a little bit of this combination of the mind, the body, the soul, your psyche, right? In addition to other unknown forces or, you know, cosmic experiences that are beyond the tangible of what we have here in our everyday lives that is very, you know, that we can touch. Yeah. So, and I do believe that there are things that could potentially exist beyond that.
For sure.
But that doesn't necessarily anchor into a particular religious identity.
Okay. Got it. I get what you're saying.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I use the terms interchangeably for purposes of everybody knowing that like religion could do a similar thing, right? If you believe in God or whatever your religious beliefs are, if you're Muslim, you have the belief of someone higher being and being able to center yourself and ground, whether it's praying, whether it's meditating, whatever the case is, there's something that is kind of grounding you that's outside of tangible evidence per se.
And I think that's one of the things about DBT, which is mindfulness, right?
Right.
I mean, mindfulness is being present in the body, but there's also kind of leans close to meditation, which is also prayer.
Absolutely.
I mean, they all kind of coexist very similarly. So whatever it is, it's the guiding force that puts you there, whether it's, you know, a particular religious experience or because you have a connection with your yoga instructor, you know, what have you. So all of these different elements come together or converge depending on who the person is. And it's just what Yeah.
It's just what you believe in that keeps you grounded. And I do think it's a core part of DBT, right? Being able to be mindful about where you are, where you're going, what's the energy you're bringing in, how are you impacting the room, how is the room impacting you, which is also going to help with emotional regulation, so on and so forth. So I think it's cool to bring that into each other. I also think it's really important for generations coming up, generations of researchers, generations of students, to be able to look up to someone like you who's been in the field for so long. Like, you have so much research experience under your belt. You have so much teaching experience under your belt. You have so much experience under your belt for you to be able to be like, yeah, both things can be true. I can be a researcher and a scientist and believe in data, and I can also have faith and believe in, be spiritual, is an amazing thing to see. So my next question is, do you think there's anything that's too woo-woo for you?
No, not at all.
Nothing?
Nope.
There's cool.
No,
for me too.
I will say, because there's nothing too woo-woo.
There can't be.
And here's why. We can't be. Because here's the thing. Humans, if you don't believe that sometimes, I don't want to be judgmental, but I will say this. If you believe,
no, be judgmental.
Okay,
Let's be judgmental.
We can't be so arrogant to believe that we know everything.
For sure.
We don't.
We don't.
We have a limitation. Yes, we have cognition, and that advances us above other sort of animal species. But at the same time, I'm talking about on this earth, but at the same time, like, we still have limitations.
For sure.
We haven't figured it out.
Of course.
We don't know everything there is to know about this universe, about this earth, about this planet, about the human psyche, the body, the soul, the brain. I mean, of course we know a lot, but there's a lot that we don't know.
There's a lot that we don't know.
And because of that, there is nothing too woo-woo. There shouldn't be anything too woo-woo. There shouldn't be.
Right.
You have to understand, we have to be expansive in the way that we think and how we're going to bring knowledge into our own mindsets. And we have to be open to everything.
Absolutely.
And so the research is data, it's numbers, it's quantifying the human experience. But you can't quantify everything.
Yeah. You
cannot.
Really can't.
You cannot quantify the unknown.
You can't.
You cannot quantify the limitations of our knowledge.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, a lot of the stuff that we do know in and of itself is limited because of the populations we use to get that knowing, you know, and we'll talk about that in a sec, but I absolutely agree. I don't think there's anything to woo.
There is nothing to woo.
To be like, and it's so funny because I use this, so the next topic we're going to talk about is the ethnic minority mental health class that we have at Cal State LA, which just translates really quickly, but we have this course that both you and I teach, which is centered around understanding ethnic minorities' mental health. When I first started teaching in my first semester ever, I had a family friend who turned to me and was like, I can't believe they're making a separate class for that. Shocked about it, right? And to me, it's quite simple. I'm ethnic minority, right? To me, it's quite simple. There's things that we don't know and ways of treating people that we don't understand because of the population that we have. Psychology is very Eurocentric. It very much uses white populations to understand what is beneficial. The studies that are these huge findings are with white populations, and we don't work the same way, right? Ethnic minorities don't in any case. But one of the key things that we talk about in that class, when I started, I asked people about what things their families did to heal them or treat them or whatever, whether it was sick, like they were sick from a flu or a cold, or just sick in general. And every single class, someone goes, the egg. Okay, I know the egg, but I've never done it. Like, my family's never done it. And everybody in my class, whenever I have students that really don't know, they're like, what do you mean the egg? You drink it, you eat it.
Cleaning.
Yes, exactly. And every single time I hear these examples, because there's so many of them, there's so many things that we do as humans that treat mental health issues or even physical health issues that are not in the research, that we don't talk about, which is why I think ethnic minority mental health class is so important, especially for people going into clinical psych, because it talks about a lot of the stuff that you can't Google search, or you can't do a Google search for the egg and find out whether or not that treatment is effective. That's an anecdotal kind of the thing that people talk about. So I guess the question behind this rambling that I just did is to basically say, Where is your experience in teaching this class? Like, how do you feel about this class that we teach ethnic minority mental health, and how does it tie back into spirituality for you?
Wow. Okay, so that's a loaded question for me because first of all, I love teaching anything relating to ethnic minority mental health, whether it's that class or any other classes, right? We weave them in. Multicultural, human violence, theories and systems.
We're going to for all of them for sure,
right.
You know, but specifically that one's directed, you know?
Yeah, and I think the reason, one of the things that I do in that class is I make sure it takes on a social justice lens as well. So it's not just understanding cultural identities and ethnic minority and the various like approaches that get used based on these generations and generations of traditions that have been very effective across multiple, you know, family systems. But by being able to take a social justice lens as well, we're able to kind of take a look at how ethnic minorities coexist in this, and I'm going to go back to what you were saying, the society that's all based on these Euro-Caucasian norms, expectations, and beliefs and ideologies. And so that allows us to kind of take a look at injustices, inequity, social stratification systems that have created sort of this push in and push out system where we have some with privilege and those who are oppressed, right? Yeah. Those who are marginalized and those who have access and those who do not. And it really allows us to tie in and weave like the sociopolitical perspective of, you know, disenfranchisement through, and then allows us to add a layer of social justice onto that. Because I think that one of the most important things is not only to discuss the cultural relevance of different sort of treatment modalities that happen within family systems and cultures, but also to give students sort of an opportunity to know that they can be advocates, that they can be agents of change, that they can authenticate the voice of others who are minimized in the field of psychology, who are minimized in the research. 95% of the research is conducted on Euro-Caucasians, right? Of psychological research globally. So we know that there's a lot of limitations. So it gives our students an opportunity to be seen, to feel validated when we talk about those lived experiences that they have themselves, given the fact that the majority of our students are ethnic minority. And also it gives them sort of the green light, so to speak, to be like, be a voice, advocate for your community. Let's look at the social justice issues. How are we going to close these gaps? You can do that because they don't want us. Some folks don't want us to have these conversations.
Of course.
And I say this in all my classes. There's a lot that we're going to talk about that is trying to be censored right now. And we're going to have this conversation because we're going to rise above that.
Right.
And also that this educational experience here is your rebellion. Because there's also people who do not want you to become educated and keep the systems in place. So education is your rebellion. Your voice is your rebellion. Being a social justice leader and an advocate is who we need more of to become in the clinical settings as well. So that class is really important to me. Side note, I saw that it's usually offered, you know, kind of in the spring. I think I mentioned this to you. And I looked at the potential spring schedule during a meeting, and I realized it was taken off the schedule. So I thought, well, maybe it's just a work in progress.
I hope so.
It's a working draft of what is the classes that are going to be offered.
We're going to have to teach that class right here.
I know.
Seriously,
I was like, wait, what? I don't see this class here, and it's so important. It's one of the most important courses. And to be able to even get that class, it's been a struggle to get some of these classes over the last 20 years in our department. Multicultural psychology, ethnic minority mental health. You know, there's always been a little bit of pushback from others. But they're there, and it's great, but I saw it off the schedule. So, of course, I kind of like went into the department office and was like, is this class supposed to be on the schedule? I didn't see it. Did I see that wrong? Is that an error? What's going on? No. I don't know if it's going to be there or not. But go ahead and send a message to our leadership and maybe let them know that that's an important course.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite classes to teach.
Don't know what's happening with that class right now. So it goes back and it ties back into who values what, like what is valued. And so that is highly valued for us, being two of the leaders that, you know, are teaching that that particular course is very valuable and important. So I sent off my email and said, I hope this class remains because the students really respond to it.
Yeah, they really do.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't really hear back. I wasn't expecting to, but at least I was able to put my...
At least there's a, advocate.
Yes, an advocate. Because that's what I ask our students to do. And so that's what I really felt.
We have to do that
we
as
needed
well.
to do that.
I totally agree with you. That's one of my favorite classes to teach. I think it's so important for students to be able to see themselves being represented in some sort of way in the psych field, because they're not. And a lot of the reasoning that I've heard for students wanting to be a clinical psych, an MFT, a social worker, like whatever the thing is like, I want to be able to like advocate for my community, That's all great. And then they go into these classes where their communities are not being mentioned. So they're learning skills of how to deal with people that are not their people. So for me, it's one of the most important classes to teach for students to be really able to connect their culture and themselves with the material and the things they want to do.
And even then, I didn't mean to. Okay. But even then, we still have students who buy into,
of course,
the dominant, narrative,
of course,
right? That it's not highly valued. We have a whole. I mean, that course has a whole. It's part of the curriculum, right? Yeah. And it's part of the content. The person who developed that course. Shout out to Eric Kohatsu.
Yeah.
Dr. Eric Kohatsu.
Dr. Eric Kohatsu.
I mean, he selected the textbook, he selected the curriculum, the learning outcomes, and we're supposed to explore Indigenous healing, right? Yeah. And looking at like alternative perspectives to healing, exactly what we're talking about today. And when we teach that, we still get students who don't have 100% buy-in.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm like, let's do something on Indigenous healing. I'll bring in sage. We do like healing circles. We go outside. We use Palo Santo. We do all these different things, right? And we talk about them. And then nonetheless, students are still like chatting amongst each other, like,
oh my God, this crazy lady made us get
we're researching. This is psychology.
I know.
Why are we doing this? Is not therapy. I want to be trained as a therapist. This isn't like, what are we doing?
So ridiculous.
So even though I'm like, it's in the learning outcomes, it's in the curriculum, it's in the selected textbook by the author of the course.
Like, why did you take the course?
That it's a value,
ethnic minority mental health.
Like, so interestingly, even our students who are of minority status, also buy into that narrative and question, why are we going outside and doing a healing circle with Palo Santo?
I always have Sarah come into my classes. Sarah, who's the owner of the studio, does yoga, meditation, et cetera, et cetera. I always have her come into my classes and do a session on, it doesn't matter what class it is, but specifically on Indigenous healing. And she does a meditation for my class. And there's a lot of people who, like, in the class have done meditations before, and so they're so excited about it. And there's people who are like, okay, I'm down to try. Let's try. And then there's always, like, 2 or 3 people in the back like this with their eyes open. And they're like, I am not going to close my eyes.
Exactly.
I refuse to meditate. I refuse to be a part of this.
I mean, some of them won't even do mindfulness.
Because they think it's woo-woo.
Oh, and it's like,
it's not. That's one of the things that you can actually find if you need to, scientific data on, research, published journal articles that talk about meditation and mindfulness.
Absolutely.
But you shouldn't. Just practice it and see how it feels in your body. At the very least, it's not going to harm you.
But there's pushback.
But there's pushback even with that, which is the simplest thing to me. So,
and even when I've crossed over some of this Indigenous healing kind of perspectives, because we always bring a cultural lens to all of our courses, social justice, cultural lenses into whether it's human violence or, what have you.
All of us. And stats. We do it in stats.
And we do it everywhere, right? Like everyone take a breath. Let's do some 5-5-5 breathing because you're going to, whatever it is. So we bring that in. And again, I think it's very interesting to hear students from different ethnic minority backgrounds really having a hard time accepting that these are modalities, even if they've grown up with them as modalities. They really are searching for like the expected dominant majority perspective of what psychology is. But really, if we do that, then we limit it's what psychology isn't. That's even just more valuable, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
And like your lived experience is valuable in this setting, right? Like your voice matters because it will help somebody else. Your experience matters, the way that you healed as a child, through whatever it was that you went through, that matters. It doesn't have to be dominant. Dominant is not always good.
Well, and I think too, like even when students like push back, like, why are we doing this, Dr. Garcia? Like, why do we have to do this here? And I'm like, let's go back to Aristotle. Let's go back to Plato. Let's go back to ancient Greece. Let's go back to Egyptian writings.
Yes.
From tens of thousands of years ago. And they talked about the mind, the body,
The
and
body
the soul.
and the soul.
Where do you think psychology
Come on.
emerged from?
Yes.
It emerged from this
Yes.
philosophers
I know. It's
tens of thousands of years ago. So I always have to bring that back. And then everyone that, oh, okay. Like then it feels validated because, you know.
Well, I think that, to me, that just speaks on how much we seek external validation as humans, right? Like,
True.
We seek so much for other people to tell us we're right, the things we do are right, like we're living by the standard, we're cool. Like, I think about this all the time whenever I see like a trend come back, you know, like a trend of things to wear or whatever. It's always like you're seeking for the external society to tell you that the way you're living is okay, or the way that you're living is right. But if you don't feel that about yourself, about the way that you're living and you're dressing, if that's not representative of who you are and what you like, then it doesn't matter what you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I understand.
The external validation portion is just so sewn into people. Part of this comes to social media, but we're not going to talk about social media on this episode. In any case, the external validation of like desire to be right, desire to be wanted or correct by others is what seeps into them, whether it's them not wanting to try new things or them not believing in like spirituality or religion or whatever. I definitely think it's a huge factor, especially in our student population.
Well, I think you're making me think about something. Yeah. Thank you for that. The external validation, because now I'm like weaving this all together, because like that's what we do as psychologists, right? We're trying to like analyze like all these behaviors and why people do what they do.
That's what we should do as psychologists.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So I feel like our students, they do get a lot of pushback from their family members when they go to college, right? That's the sentiment.
Yes.
A lot of them are first gen, go to college. And then when they say, I'm going to college, I'm going to get a degree in psychology. And then they say, psychology? Why are you going to do that? They get a lot of pushback from their families about going to college and getting a degree in psychology. Like, why would you do that? Yeah. What are you going to do with that? Because there's so much stigma aligned with psychology. Yeah. So now I'm starting to realize that maybe some of our students, not all of them, a lot of them open and embracing like the opportunities that we give them when we start looking at these indigenous or alternative practices to talk about as potential modalities for treatment. But at least I'm starting to realize that maybe a lot of these students are being invalidated by their decisions to go into the field of psychology by family members. And so now they're going to reject sort of anything that seems like their own experiences because they want to have more of that external validation from the discipline of psychology to feel like, you see, I'm in this, it's a real field and it's a discipline and it's like really got real research, you know, mom and dad. So maybe they're looking for that external validation themselves.
It's almost like when you're like, I'm Armenian American, and when I go to Armenia, people are like, "Oh, you're American," and then when I'm here, I'm definitely not American. You know that idea of like, you're never really belonging. So you pick psychology, but your family hates it because it's not like psychology.
It's not a real.
And ethnic communities is so like, ugh. And then in this, you're like, okay, it's so white here. I'm trying to pick this, but it's a very weird place to be for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, that's a whole nother episode, TBH. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about our students.
Yeah. Okay.
I would love to know if you've ever had like an aha moment or like a life-changing moment, a light bulb moment with a student. Maybe a moment that has like impacted the way that you teach or the way that you guide things. I'll share mine really briefly so that maybe it'll light something up for you. But my first ever semester teaching, I had this student in my class who basically wasn't showing up, and then they did a group presentation. The student showed up for the group presentation and kind of stood in front of the presentation. The slide that was supposed to be that student's had no idea what was going on, like completely talked about something that was not on the slide. Basically did extremely poorly in the class, was not present, very, very minimal work, and failed the class essentially. And I struggled with giving the student an F a lot because I don't want to fail students. I don't want people to have to retake the course. I think it was multicultural. I don't remember, but it was a core course that they had to take. So I struggled with that a lot. And then summer session started a week after grades were posted. So I walk into my summer session class and there's that student sitting in the front row. So essentially I'm panicking because I just failed this student and they're sitting in the front row of my summer class. So I'm thinking like they came to fight. Like the student came to tell me, how dare you fail me? How could you? You know, the whole speech they give, I'm about to graduate and da 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 da. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm prepared. I'm standing by my decision. They were, student didn't show up. They didn't do the work. They can't pass the class. Anyways, that's not why they were there. Clearly, they were just taking my class. Class went by 10 weeks. Student is amazing. Gets an A in my class. Comes to me the last week of summer session with like a handwritten card that she had written me, and she says, I just wanted to say thank you for failing me. Mm-hmm. She gets an A in my summer class, and she says, I just want to say thank you for failing me, because if you didn't fail me, I would have never changed what I was doing in academics. Mm-hmm. She's in a master's degree program now, Yeah. And for me, that's always a reminder whenever I'm in any type of situation where I feel like a student's doing poorly. Like, I do everything I can to help them, but sometimes you need to fail to realize whatever you're doing is not working. It's not gonna help you succeed. Mm-hmm. My goal is never to just pass students to pass them, but for them to pass knowing that they did something that's effective for them, right? Knowing that the skills they're learning are working for them. So I no longer feel bad about failing students. And it's not that students fail often. I just don't feel bad about it anymore.
If it happens, yeah.
If it happens, because I know that I've done everything I can. And maybe it's not the time for the student to pass that class. They need to learn what they need to learn. So that's my moment. I will never forget that day.
Right.
That moment for me. So I wanted to know a little bit about yours, if you have one.
Well, you know what?
I'm sure you have a lot,
because
you've been teaching for 20 plus years.
I'm trying to I can't remember a specific moment.
Yes.
But I will say that there's probably two things.
Okay.
Just in general. Number one, I don't know, after a handful of years in teaching, I just I've always told the students this, I know what it feels like to be on that side of the classroom.
Yes.
Because I will never forget what it felt like to be a student. Yeah, because I feel like I have a lot of privilege, and I feel honored to be able to be on this side of the classroom.
Oh yeah, oh my
gosh. So I really feel like it's an honor for me to be there, knowing what it feels like to be on the other side of the room. So I think that's the one thing I always try to remind myself, I've been on the other side of the classroom, and never forget that experience.
Yeah.
What it felt like maybe to have a professor who wasn't listening to you, or what it felt like to have a professor who didn't really, embrace you, or really, be open for you, or to even just listen, or allow you to ask questions,
for sure.
Right? Because we know what it was like. And I remember even as I was a graduate student, I remember thinking, oh, that's the kind of professor I want to be. That's the kind of professor I don't want to be. I don't want to be like that. So I kind of always sort of put myself in that perspective of trying to step into that experience of the students' world, because that's who we were. I mean, we're in academia as students forever. Like when you get with a PhD, you're talking about, I think I was 13 years. So it's not like I was a student.
Oh, wow. Oh, like you were a
collectively.
For 13. Oh, yeah.
Like from
Same.
undergrad to grad school to,
4, 6, 5, 11 almost?
11
years
yeah.
almost.
I think I was like 13-ish.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So, you're in it for so long as a student. It's hard to to not forget that.
It's hard to not forget that, for sure.
Yeah.
And it guides a lot of what you do, I'm sure.
I think so. And I think the other thing that happened was that I always understand that I was an undergraduate student at the institution I teach at now.
Me too, yeah.
So I absolutely know the experiences, the lived experiences of those students in terms of a little bit of survival, a little bit of maybe family dynamic issues, a little bit of, maybe teachers or high schools that I went to weren't the best, most supportive, weren't really oh yeah, you can do anything you want. They're like, you're probably not going to turn out so well.
Yeah.
So good luck with life.
Good luck with life.
That was the kind of messaging I got. Right? So I do feel as though, because I'm able to really have a lot of empathy for our students, because I went to the same kind of schools that they went to. I went to the same I lived and grew up in this very similar neighborhood that majority of our students are coming from. That makes it a lot easier for me to feel like I can look at these situations and have a lot of empathy. So I would say the one thing I try to remember, and I will say it was a collection of students, probably within about 5 to 7 years of teaching. I start, students have a lot of I'm not coming to class because, or can I get an extension, or I missed an assignment. And, initially I was like,
what's happening?
Just do the work.
Just do the work.
Just do the work. But then as you start digging a little deeper and you're instead of just saying, yes, you can have the extension, now I say, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Are you all right? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then you'll be surprised at how many students say, well, actually, XYZ. Yeah. I mean, I had one student who kept consistently asking for a lot of extensions, And I was like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Like, well, actually, I'm living in my car right now.
Yeah.
So we have to like pause and just ask, are you
Absolutely.
okay?
Absolutely.
Because when we start to see like attendance, assignments, it doesn't change from junior high, high school to college.
Right.
There's something bigger going on in the lives of those kids.
Yeah.
And I understand that. You know, I also grew up in a time where it was like, too bad if all those things are going on. You get up, you wake up, you stumble through it, and you go and you become a survivalist, and then you have, you know, high cortisol later. I don't know. It's terrible for you, right? But it's okay, sorry. But it's really a terrible. All right, I guess we're pausing there. No, but it's really a terrible it's really a terrible way to live. It really is. But it's like sometimes I can't click that out of my own identity.
No,
it's like,
and I think that's why you work so
one foot in front
hard.
of it and get it done.
Yes,
like there is not an option.
There is not an option.
It's not. But like
I think that's part of the reason why you're able to create such good relationships with your students, because you understand them really well. You know, like, and I think you're one of the few faculty on campus that at least, okay, I shouldn't say that because I don't know all of the faculty, but one of the faculty that I know that builds really good relationships with students, and it's majorly dependent on the fact that you understand them and you try to understand them. Like, I also went to this campus as an undergrad and a grad student, and part of my PhD, the whole thing, now I'm teaching yourself, like, it has a hold on you. I also went to high school in the area. Like, I understand what they're coming in with, and I get all of that. And I've known you now for 6 years almost. I think we were just talking about this, 6 years. And a lot of what I do is modeled based on the fact that you were the first person I GA'd for ever. So my first experience being on this side of the classroom was being your graduate assistant in my master's program. And being able to see the way you build relationships with students, because I will tell you that back then I was like, just do the work. And there's still a little bit of just do the work. No, like, the sentiment is there.
No,
just do the work.
Because honestly, accountability is still important, right?
Accountability
you
is still
still have
important.
to be accountable, and you still have to take responsibility, and you still have to manage your time, and you still have to figure out how you're going to navigate. You still have to do the things.
But like with a little bit of care and compassion, because I think a lot of students can come in, and I'm a part of a program, and I just heard someone else say this, like, I can have care and compassion for you. I care. I'll give you the extension. I do all the things. You still have to do the work. Like, there has to be a balance. And that's not easy to do. I don't think that's easy, especially for kids coming in from high schools that they don't build relationships with their mentors with, or their schools are not telling them you can do everything, or they're not learning the skills, the writing levels that they need before they go to college. I think it's harder for those students or first-gen students that are navigating, et cetera, so many things. So I can give you care and compassion, and you can make the effort to balance those two things, because it's not easy. Yeah. But college is not supposed to be easy.
It's not. And I think that's where I have to figure out how to balance, or actually students kind of have to figure out, balance my approach too, because I'm going to have high expectations.
Yeah.
But I'm also very approachable.
Yeah.
And I can be flexible if
for
needed.
Sure.
And I'm going to have a lot of genuine care and concern about students, because I do know that there's a lot of challenges. Because I lived it too. I was one of those students who came from a not so great high school, and had to really work hard. But nonetheless, I really do feel as though that students do have to kind of, and this I will say, students, and it's good advice for students, know your professors and really try to not just what coursework do I have to do? What task do I need to do to get points and scores for my grade? Yeah. Don't just look at it that way. Because what you really need to think is the bigger perspective. Who is my professor? Yes. What are they kind of asking of me? How approachable are they? Can I ask them questions? Should I go to office hours? Not only what do the assignments mean, but also sort of what do the assignments mean that I'm going to learn from? Why is this important, and why should I value this assignment that was given to me? So I think that changes the way that students can experience learning in the classroom as well. I mean, that is my responsibility, right? To make sure that learning is going to happen, but students also have to receive that. Yeah, and it can't just look at, to learn. No, it can't just be what's on the syllabus, what do I have to do to get X grade?
And I think we were just talking about this, that like, I cannot force you to learn. And again, this comes back to like how are people being trained before they get to our classes? Because we teach mainly 3rd and 4th, 3,000, 4,000 level classes, right? So a lot of juniors and seniors. So up until that point, like how have they been taught to take their courses? And a lot of it is, what are the check marks? How do I finish this assignment? How do I answer the question? So sometimes when I give them an assignment that like has a question that does not apply to them, they don't know how to just be like, oh, this doesn't apply to me, I shouldn't answer it. So the idea of like taking the assignment away from just a check mark and applying it and being like, what am I learning with this? It's a very hard mind shift, mind frame shift for students for sure. It takes them a bit of work, but once they make that effort to be like, I'm not gonna focus on just completing the task, I'm gonna focus on knowing that the task is benefiting me in some sort of way, then these like crazy miracles happen where they learn.
You know, and I keep sending this message. These are really important skill sets because you're gonna be able to develop yourself as clinicians, as psychologists, as researchers. You're gonna get advantages. You're going to have more opportunities. So it's not just about the points that you get. It's about the opportunities that you gain from them. And so that's why I do keep my expectations, you know, high. But again, I'm approachable. Come to me. Please come to me. Please come to me. Sure. And there's flexibility. And I also gauge the whole class, not just individual students. Absolutely. So I have to gauge the whole class and go, this whole class is kind of have an interesting vibe today. Let's dig in and find out. Like, how are you guys doing today? What's going on? You guys are a little bit like, what's happening? And then we start to hear more about like the student stress and strain, and it can be collective.
It can be collective. I mean, I've definitely been like, y'all look really stressed today. I am not going to lecture you. I'm not lecturing you. I'm not going to give you an assignment today because, and I don't mean to sound angry when I say that. I mean, like, I am not going to stress you out more when I can tell that you're already not checked in, because my lecture is not going to land. You know, like whatever material I'm trying to get across to you is not going to land. And I'd rather do something when you're excited to learn than do something when I'm forcing material down your throat and you're not there. So, and I think...
Wow, all of that is really good. You have an amazing mentor. Just kidding. No, but I love that.
Do.
That is...
I really do have an amazing mentor.
No, but those are very, very good like tenets that you have to work with our students, you know?
I mean, listen,
because you're right. They're not going to learn.
They're not going to learn.
And
like,
moment.
And I keep my expectations high too. I think I'm never going to drop those expectations. I do. I'm a tough grader. I keep my expectations high. And honestly, my sole expectation is that you're learning, that you're trying, right? Like whatever the course content is, but I can do all of that and also be careful, caring and compassionate. And I think I do that. I try my best to do that.
And
I did have a good mentor, and that's why I'm able to do it.
But you also have a really good balance too, where you do have high expectations and you can be a hard grader. But yet at the same time, you have such a good vibe with your students that people really like honor you. They really do value you being there as a leader in the classroom. They absolutely do. I think a lot of students really look up to you. They see you as a role model. They really thrive in being in your classes. And I think that's very successful, not just for you, but also for students. It's kind of like our success is based on our students' success.
Our success is based on our students'
So when we see like, wow, a lot of people did so well in this class, or I have so many students that did amazing, and they're asking you to write letters of recommendation, and they're going off to grad school, or they're advancing their profession, their career. So then I'm like, because that's what we do, right? It's really about mentorship too.
It's really about mentorship. And I tell my students this all the time, like I've written letters of rec for students that did not get an A in my class. And I wrote them because it's not that the letter grade matters to me. Actually, it matters more to me what you did in the classroom. So if you're coming in with, just for lack of better words, F-level understanding, and you work your way up to a C, and at the end of that, you ask me for a letter of recommendation, yes, I'm going to write you a letter of recommendation. If you come into my classroom at a C-level understanding and you do nothing but maintain the bare minimum, you're not trying to gauge the actual material or just checking off tasks, that's someone I wouldn't write a letter of rec for.
Right.
And I try to get them to understand that. And it's hard because the system is set up so much so that it's dependent on those letter grades, like there's not much we can do about it. But I can try to get them to understand that it's not so much about the letter grade as it is that I want you to learn. I try to do that. I've had good mentor. Good mentor.
I'm not the only one. There's been others.
But, balance is really the key thing.
Right.
For me, it's the key thing for you, I think, as well. Balancing your hectic life, balancing just anything, balancing spirituality and balancing being a researcher, balancing how do you do classes and teach and still be a student. 'Cause, you know, at the end of the day, we're academics, we're still all students. So the last question I kind of want to end off with, because in this theme of balance, is how do you balance your hectic work life, because you do so much, and just being able to like maintain calm and fun in that lifetime as well?
Well, I think before I go into the things that I do with balance,
Yes.
one of the things that makes the work that I do already feel like there's balance integrated into that, it's because of the people that I work with.
That's nice.
I really enjoy the work that I do, and I think I've cultivated a space both in the classroom, in my office, in my research lab, where there's just such a positive energy that people come in and want to share their day and want to share their day to day. You know, all the people that we see on the day. And honestly, it's the people that, you know, that you create sort of this community around you that provides you with that balance.
Nice.
I could walk out of a classroom and be like, well, that was an interesting conversation. I can't believe that person said that, what have you. But then I walk in and then I have my community. We have TAs, we have students, we have each other, we have other colleagues, and that we really already find balance just by cultivating community that is very supportive and connective, and we just have such a good vibe. So that's the one thing I think, creating a culture within the space that you're able to work with, both in the classroom and just outside of the classroom, and that kind of creating a culture of like safety and support and friendship, and actually fun. Right?
For sure.
Don't you feel it?
No,
like,
I love it.
Every
I love
day,
being
like
in your space. I love being around.
Well, you're part of my space. Like you've kind of had to like, you know, fold into my space a little bit. Another drama.
Another drama
another day.
Another day.
Another day.
Topic for another day.
No, but we've like folded in all the right people into our spaces. And I think that's one of the critical pieces why I don't feel stressed during the day, even when I have to teach, and then I have to mentor, and then I've got to catch up on grades, and then I have a research lab meeting, and then we've got to coordinate a curriculum.
You.
We have such good people around us.
I agree with you.
It doesn't feel like work.
It doesn't feel like work.
It doesn't feel like work.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm really stressed out right now in my classes, but it's fun because I get to know, I mean, hopefully we got 8 more weeks. So at least at the end of this, I hope to know that like they've learned something. It's fine if I'm stressed out about it. I know I have good community. I have good support. I have a volunteer TA, you know, Lorenzo like has my back. Like that's such a unique, absurd thing for me to say. I don't have a real TA. He's not there because he's being paid. He's there because he wants to support me and the students. And that's such a cool thing to have. So you're right, it doesn't feel like work. We just like have coffee and chit chat and talk to the students about research, and it's exciting. And I definitely
so and I think cultivating those spaces what gives you balance in the day to day. It makes it so easy.
Absolutely.
It doesn't feel stressful or difficult,
stressful.
Right?
It just feels like
it's a good vibe.
Yay.
It's a good vibe
It's a good vibe.
It's a good vibe.
Which
every
is
day
rare.
on campus.
I think it's really rare for our campus, and it's very nice for our students to see us like that.
Well, people do see it. So like we were walking down the hallway once. I think it was me, you, and a couple of our TAs were with us. And you turned and you were like, and people would kind of look at us as we're walking because we're like laughing and we're joking and we're on our way and we're
so
loud. And we don't mean to be, but we're just really
we're excited
enjoying
about life.
We enjoy what we do. And we
totally
like the people that are around us, and we love our students. And so we're enjoying it and having a good time. And I noticed too, people are like, oh, there they go. There's Dr. Like,
there they go.
There they go. And then you turned and looked at us and you were like, we're kind of like the popular kids in high school that everybody wants to be with. I know that was totally facetious, but in a way, it's like
it though?
No, but in a way, we attract good energy.
We attract good energy.
I think that's the bottom line, right? I know what you said was like, and what you said was like in joking and like kind of haha, funny. But at the same time, it was like, no, we attract really good energy, and I think we're sending. And then this goes back to balance, right? Sending and receiving.
Sending and receiving, for sure.
Yeah, and you're going to receive what you send. And I think we both have cultivated a really good group of a community.
Even if you just think about the fact that students are able to tell you, I was living in my car. You know, that's like, first of all, I don't think that's super allowed, right? Depending on where you park your car, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that they trust you with information like that tells me that you bring, and me too, simultaneously, both of us do this, where you bring enough energy and trust and safety into the classroom where they feel comfortable telling you that. And that's important.
I mean, That was just one story.
That was
right?
just one story.
And
I
every
mean,
semester,
for sure, every
I'm
semester there's something.
referring
Like,
students.
you have what, 75, 100 students,
Something
more maybe?
Yeah.
And every single semester, more than one person, it's same thing has
100%.
happened to me, has had the ability to trust us with information, and that's because I'm here to support you. I'm not here to criticize you. I'm here to give you constructive feedback. I'm here to help you learn. I'm here to help you grow. And honestly, I'm here to make it fun. I'm not going to come into a classroom where it's boring and dull. If you guys are not having it today, I'm gonna do something that's gonna make us have it. We're gonna watch a movie. I'll bring in some popcorn. Like, we're gonna build community, because it's not just about you checking in and being in your seat for an hour to get a check mark, right? I totally agree with you. I think that's one of the greatest things ever. I had actually not thought about balance in that way. I think about balance in, like, I do yoga, like I do whatever else,
Right.
but balance in the fact that you have such good energy in your space that makes you feel calm and trusted and safe and energetic and happy is such a beautiful
And you
way to
receive
put
that back.
And
That's the
receive that
balance,
back.
right?
Absolutely.
What you send and what you receive. And I
That's
think that's
amazing.
what makes the day really exciting for me.
Yeah.
I enjoy going to work. After all these over 20-something years doing the same job, I love my job.
You love your job.
I enjoy
love
it,
my
but
job.
I do.
I love my job.
But I will say,
Okay.
aside from that, right, I do a lot of, I do meditation,
Yeah.
acupuncture.
Yes.
I do
You do yoga.
I do yoga. I
Yeah.
do a circadian rhythm yoga
Yeah.
at least once, if not twice a week.
Amazing.
So we do go in the evening, and so there are some poses, but the poses are intended to sort of like reset you,
Yes.
get ready for the
Calm.
evening, and to calm, so that's to reset your circadian rhythm if you've had these like really busy days. So I tend to go on Wednesday night.
Nice.
So it's kind of as I'm ramping up, and
Yeah,
then
then
on
calm
Wednesday
down.
I can kind of come back down and finish the week. So it's kind of nice that way. So I do yoga and meditation. I have to be careful with meditation though, because sometimes I can go into like a deeper set of meditation.
Cool.
Well, is that cool? No, that's kind of one of those
That's
things
cool
that
for me.
it scares me.
Okay.
Okay, a little bit, because we talked about sort of like balancing and like my own
Yes.
journey through spirituality,
Yes,
and how do I
yes.
coalesce the two as
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
researcher
yeah.
and a scientist and an academic. But in the end, sometimes
Got
you can
it.
go so deep
It's-
into meditation,
yes.
you feel a little almost like disconnected with the present, which I think is the goal
It's the goal.
of meditation.
Right. I was like, I want that. I've been trying
so why
to.
is that a
but, like,
problem?
literally.
That's when I said that it kind of can be scary
It's a
for
bit
me
much, yes,
sometimes,
that's
because
understandable.
I'm still like, but where's my tangible,
Where's my tangible
sort of life
yeah.
that I want to connect to?
Yeah.
But my meditation can go really deep. So I
That's
do
nice.
sort of like set timers
Yeah.
to set myself
Okay.
out of,
to come back up.
to come
Okay,
back
got
up
it,
and
got it,
out,
got it, got it.
because I can get stuck for
Yeah.
easily an hour, if not more,
That's amazing.
like a
Wow.
long time.
To
the point where like,
honestly,
yeah.
you are my role model in many ways, and
I don't think
one of them is to be able to reach a 1 hour meditation where
Oh.
I'm disconnected with the present
oh,
completely. I have not been able to do that.
yeah, that
So-
scares me. But
Oh,
yes,
really?
I can do that. And I have a meditation journal.
That's amazing.
So I write,
Journaling, yeah.
like the experience being in different spaces
That's amazing.
when you're meditating.
Yeah.
And so that's part of a little bit of my, that part
Yeah.
I've never really shared how scared I am of meditation, but I
Yeah.
do it. And I have a space and everything.
Yeah.
Actually, I shouldn't say that I'm being a little dramatic. I'm not really scared
No,
of it.
but it's
But it is something
yeah.
that I have to
Be
weave
cautious.
in. I have to be cautious, and I have to like weave in certain boundaries.
Yeah.
You have to set
Specific
certain
to
boundaries.
Dr. Garcia, everybody, meditation is not a you probably shouldn't be scared of it.
No, I
Or
know.
try.
That's why I was like, I'm being
Specific
dramatic.
to Dr. Garcia, this example. Okay.
That's a me thing, everyone.
know,
That's a me thing.
when you tell
I'm-
the students, why did you put this here? And they go, I should delete it. You know,
Yeah,
it's one
you're
of
like,
those,
no, that's not what I
no,
said.
I'm just asking
Please
the
don't.
question.
Yeah.
Please
So-
take all comments and questions with, your
yeah.
own lived experience, the whole purpose.
And like I said, I'm being a little dramatic by saying
Yeah.
it's scary. Like
It's
it's
not.
not really scary.
Yes.
For me, going back to the original question on how you
Absolutely.
built this journey, that's my sort of internal struggle or
Yeah.
challenge sometimes with understanding that these coexist together. But
yeah.
still there's a piece of me that's still looking for this. And then when it gets too much of the research and the data, then I
Then you
delve
jump
in
in.
more
Absolutely.
into the other end, right? And so
Absolutely.
it's kind of finding that balance in
Yeah.
general, even in those two worlds that don't want to coexist together.
For sure.
So you sort of make sure that they do.
Safely.
But
yes.
for me, like again, a little bit of boundaries for when I go into really deep meditation is important to me. And then I journal about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to stop. I really appreciate you coming on. I think this is a beautiful way to talk about balance in all aspects of this entire conversation, whether we're talking about our students, our experience being academics and being spiritual, and also just taking care of ourselves. So thank you so much for being here. I will literally see you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
No, and I want to just thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. You know, I love to have our chats anyways.
Absolutely.
And like this way,
and now everyone can listen.
And now we can see what we talk about, right?
Every time.
Because everyone just thinks we like have these like, I don't know, who knows, one-off, toss-off kind of conversations. No. Like, no, we're legit people.
No, we're legit people. We have legit conversations. Just because the door is closed doesn't mean it's not a legit conversation. But now you can be a part of it, you know, because we know many people want to be a part of it. So sneak peek on Dr. Garcia chat. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for listening. If you like this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe.